from the first impression that you got from like looking at some of the marketing material to actually diving into the comic, it's like night and day, so far connected. Like I had this like experience. Okay, I'm not gonna mention the book, but it's like you see any marketing material around the book, and then it so turned out that they only have like one or two issues, and they're advertising the book using something that probably might happen in issue 5 3 years in the future. That happened to me with the comic, and I was like, ah man, first impressions are important, people. It's really important. And sometimes the first impressions, they don't be lining up. That was my goal with compiling this on like what is the first thought that comes to people's mind when they see these characters that are main characters in Christian comic book series. Well, in a Christian comic book series. 9 out of the 10 characters that I'll be presenting, that I did the post with, are from the Remnant comic book series, and one of them is from the Black Blossom. Well, the Black Blossom herself, Michi, which is where we'll start things off with. Her official synopsis states, Michi Hadaka, also known as a Black Blossom, recently moved from Hawaii to the mainland. Michi's life took a fantastical turn when a mysterious portal bestowed upon her a remarkable supersuit made of liquid metal, with powers akin to a fusion of Venom and Iron Man. She fearlessly patrols the city streets, protecting its citizens from criminals. Despite her novice status in the world of superheroes, Michi approaches her newfound responsibilities with an infectious sense of lightheartedness and humor, always quick with a witty grip even in the face of danger. Michi embarks on a heroic journey driven by a simple yet powerful belief that doing good is reason enough to fight, and she stands as a beacon of justice and joy in Scott City. So based on the image I used in our community post, my first impression, even though I am familiar with the character, was Violet Star. She's a master swordsman with a technologically advanced nanosuit and has some telekinetic abilities. Other commenters said Starlight with a deep telekinetic connection to her swords and power to project beams that give kill. Yeah, that's where that person left their comment. Purple Paladin stores kinetic energy with her blades, using them to enhance her strikes. Another one is the Purple Kunochi, expert weapons fighter and gymnast. I hope I said Kunochi correctly. Someone else said she could be a high-skilled swordsman with telekinetic powers. Her name could be Heatherblade, lol. Someone else said Black Lotus. It gives me that vibe. Maybe it's a common name. Someone else said Violet, Starblade, and the last one is Black Poppy, since she puts others to sleep with the gospel. All are interesting names. I really like Heatherblade, Purple Paladin, Starlight, but the Black Blossom just has its own ring. And judging from what they said to me, knowing what the character is about, I'll say on a scale of, I don't know, 10, the guesses were more so along 7.5 to 8. They were close. No one was like directly hitting the nail on the head with it, but they were close. And that's a good representation of the Black Blossom, with people would just like guess what she does. Our next post wasn't just one hero, but a group of 3: Atoman, Gemnstar, and Calvary. I recently went over the official origins just a couple weeks ago in my Remnant issue 3 review, so I would just run a clip from that video for their official backstories. At the Tribulation Task Force HQ, it's time for the Remnant heroes to pick their newest recruits. With 23 candidates to choose from, only 3 of them made the cut. These 3 are Atoman, who possesses atomic-based powers, which includes flight and energy generation, that comes from the power suit he wears that was passed down to him from his grandfather. Calvary, who has a unique and unpredictable set of powers that are seemingly activated in high adrenaline situations or are activated as well by his level of faith. And Gemnstar, who is powered by a gem that fell out of a portal during the battle between Raytheon and Blue Flame. If you would like the reference to that battle, you can check out our The Remnant Issue 0 review video. So this time around, I asked, based on the image alone, what individual superhero name would you give them? Also, what would you name their team? And some of the responses were the Newcomes, starring Hush Spice, Communion, and the Green Veil. Someone else said Neolite with Skyflare, Dazzle, and Cryer. Another said a fancy lad starring Butterfingers, Jellyfish, and Phlegmon. Someone else said Amethyst, Fireball, and the Fighting Octopus of the Elites. And another one explaining his thought process on the red one I would call Firepower. The green one, Smash. He seems more like a brawler. And the pink one I would name Destructive or Disruptive Pink. Together they form the Dissemination Squad. And another one is, well, the dude in the middle I dub Starflare. The girl I shall call her Jewel. Yeah, that sounds good. The guy in green, oh, how about Succumb? And the team shall be called Slugfest, I think. They look like heavy hitters. For that one, I would give that 8 out of 10 on folks' guesses, because they didn't really forgot to ask for what powers would he give them. But just judging on some of the thought processes, I mean, some of these are funny. Hush Spice Communion and the Green Veil had me laughing. And if this Fireball and the Fighting Octopus, these guys were just having fun, and that's one of the things that I really liked from doing this, is to stroke people's creativity on coming up with something. And as you go along, you would see that some of these even inspired some of the folks who are actually in the process of writing their own stories, and helped them with their own stories and inspired them. I mean, we're going on to our next one, which is the Apostle from the Remnant. And the Apostle's backstory is as follows. John was one of the original 12 disciples/apostles who walked with Jesus. John was also known as the beloved apostle, and the one Jesus made a reference to as possibly never dying until Jesus returned. John was the writer of the book of Revelation, which was given to him by divine revelation on the island of Patmos. John was discovered by the Catholic Church to be alive and living in Rome in 1959. The Catholic Church kidnapped him and have been holding him hostage ever since. John, holding the office of an apostle, receives vision and revelation from God, has demonstrated limited healing abilities and divine knowledge. John is a skilled fighter and proficient with the sword. Although John is a skilled combatant, he prefers to fight battles spiritually when possible. And for this one, we had a lot of comments. On the first one, easy, Gladiator, electric power base. Then Scarlet Crusader, the Light Knight, expert swordsman, brings peace in any territory he steps on. Great armor, good headbutts, can slide on a shield. The next one, which I liked a lot, the Bronze Ephesian, or Ephesian for short, whose armor is impenetrable to all physical and spiritual attacks, but only if he's prayed for it to be so within the last 6 hours. Also, when around other Christians, they gain enhanced durability while his own is active. And the reason why I like this a lot, and I totally comment, is because I'm actually in the process of developing my first indie Christian video game, and I actually have like a long list of abilities for what I call my dream spiritual warfare game that I want to create. And something like this is actually an ability in the game. But moving on, this is a tough one without context, especially Christian context. The best I got is Tried in the Fire, but I won't really know what his abilities would be. With context, it's bringing others to Christ if they accept it. And someone else said Viva Cristo Rey, or just Ray for short. Another said the Apostle is pretty fitting. Not because his superhero name is the Apostle, but because the character design lends itself into the name. Another comment said Cross the Humble, whose helmet protects him from psychic attacks. His breastplate protects from all forms of physical damage. His sword can cut through anything with laser precision. His shield can extend as big as he can believe it to be, as well as his belt keeps resurrecting him every time he dies, and his gauntlets are just normal gauntlets which can pound demons' butts to dust. He did not use butts. Another said, I already know from your other videos that that's John the Baptist, the literal Christian soldier, which could just be his hero name, Christian Soldier, like the song by John Snipped. I hope I pronounced that right. The gladiator who was blessed to inflict joy and rest through his sword and resist depression and sadness with defenses. His shield extends to 15 feet with for 45 seconds at a time to cover others in battle. Another said Christ Knight, whose sword can cut through whatever it touches. Materials, then materials only. If skin, it causes temporary separation of the person and their soul, both appearing as doubles besides one another. Someone else said, I am the Knight of the White Cross. I will destroy my enemies and pray for their souls. I have first aid training and provided a triage of medicine for allies. Someone said, the Holy Crusader. Honestly, out of all the Christian themed heroes, this one definitely is on point the coolest. Have his sword be able to cast holy fire that cuts through anything with evil intent, burn, and exorcism on people who are possessed. Is that too dark of a suggestion? Someone else said the converter, he has the power to rip non-Anglo-Christians from their birthrights and ancestral values/traditions while pillaging their resources, using and misleading them for his benefit. He also has the powers of extreme contradiction to confuse and overwhelm the non-believers. He was created by the Council of 300 and Constantine. The more he denies logic, the stronger his sword, armor, and shield gets. Talk of Middle Passage and American chattel slavery weakens him. Someone else said, well, Zana, our friendly atheist, who was, I don't know if to say friendly atheist, but you would hear him like turn a lot of the heroes into villains and villains into heroes, referencing his original story that he is working on with some of the concepts. I would make him a villain, and his name is the Crusader. He is a preacher who fearsome of the existence of the fairies like Astra, and fearsome of the fact his prayers have no effect removing the magic from her, wants to create a witch hunt and dons an armor made of tech to fight any magical being regardless if it's good or evil. The sword has a generator of vibrations in the blade to increase its sharpness, and the shield emits a force field. He has tried to attack Astra and her friends because he fears their magic and because he considers her existence as sinful for her being half fairy. So as you see with the last two name suggestions and power suggestions, they were like not to say against the character is probably like a bit hyperbolic, but I mean, as Christian creatives putting out stuff, we're not going to be shy from non-Christians who come and like express their opinion that is completely on the opposite spectrum of our own, like the converter and the villain, the Crusader that Zana came up with. That's their first impressions of the character, and on the Xplanations channel, it is welcome, because it helps with the marketing research efforts of knowing what non-Christians think of the Christian comics that we cover on the channel. And it has been some quite interesting perspectives. We're continuing the last one, Redemption, the Undying Warrior. The Roman soldier that stabbed Jesus on the cross became a follower and repented, but a visitation told him his redemption was servitude in defending the just and helpless. He served and found that he never aged. He was well over 300 when he first died, and his last breath was grateful, but his body faded, not his soul, and he awoke at Golgotha and was informed that his time was not served. A master of combat and strategy, Redemption prefers sword and shield, two powerful relics discovered in his travels. The sword can build power with massive strikes, and the shield generates an inertial and energy dampener that stops bullets before they even strike. That was fun, thanks for the mental distraction. And Roman's suggestions, I found a lot of his suggestions were cool concepts. Now, just a disclaimer, this is not an endorsement of all of the concepts that were listed, because if I were to take some of these concepts and put it on our Christian fiction judgment scale, in the theological department, some of these getting a -5 on our scale of 5, just being real. But just in the vein of understanding people's, like where people's mind go when they see the characters and just understanding people's first impressions to it, I'm reading all the comments that were in our comment section. This is not a blanket endorsement of all the comments that you hear. But on our scale for this particular video on how well and close they were to the Apostle, let's say probably like a 7 or 8. Yeah, 7 or 8 on what the Apostle is about. I mean, not really. Maybe 6 or 7. A lot of it was resolving around some kind of spiritual aspect, like spiritual warfare style, while there were others that were like, we heard the 2 that was like turning them into some kind of like villain or something like that. But yeah, I'll say 7. Yeah, 7. 7 compared to what the actual Apostle is like.